Welcome everyone to the Lakeland Rotary Club. My name is Joel Ivy. I'm so glad you could all join us today. We've got a good program for you. To lead us off with the invocation, Pledge of Allegiance, and to recite the four-way test will be Josie Hill. Josie's a co-head and founder of the Lakeland Montessori School. She's a 3-year Rotarian and a Paul Harris Fellow. Josie, would you lead us in the invocation, please?
Let us give thanks. Thank you for all the blessings and opportunities you give us each and every day. Please help us to use our gifts to help others and make a difference in our world. Help us to appreciate and respect each other and honor each other's differences and strengths. Help us to have integrity in all we do. As we meet together today and enjoy the food you've provided to us, let us be reminded to be thankful for all that we've been given. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Josie. Very efficient. We appreciate it. To lead us in the introduction of guests and visiting Rotarians, standing in for Trey will be Jack Lohman.
Good afternoon, everybody. Do we have any Rotarians with guests today?
Yes, I have a guest. I have Andrew Troller with Good Intents Marketing, and I believe Scott Hadley with Hadley Insurance is here.
All right. Welcome, Scott and Andrew. Anybody else with a guest?
Melody, I have Greg Agoyan with me again.
All right, Greg, welcome back. Anybody else? Do we have any visiting Rotarians? All right. I believe that is it, President Joel.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. Let's go into some happy dollar announcements. If anybody wants to make a happy dollar announcement, please unmute yourself and speak up now, please. We have a small, somber bunch today. All right, hearing none, we'll go into the regular announcements. Ms. Irma, did you want to do a follow-on to the Rotary Cares a Ton?
Yeah, I'd love to. I don't have the final numbers. It ended last night at midnight, but as of about 9 o'clock last night, I can tell you that for the district, I think it's 25 clubs participated. We collected 146,543 pounds, which equals 73.3 tons. So I can't tell you who won, but I can tell you that as of yesterday afternoon, we were in 9th place. We had collected from 24 participants, 10,693 pounds. So thank you to all of those who did participate. And if you missed out, I have a funny feeling they may do this again next year. Thank you.
Irma, do you want to talk about the license plates?
Oh, yeah. So Rotary has worked really hard for about 7 years to get this to happen. So we need 3,000 pre-orders to actually make it a reality. This is what the plate would look like. Costs $35 to pre-order. This is for the whole state of Florida. This is not just a district thing. It's kind of a cool tag. And you can go online to that address right there, floridarotarytag.com, and pre-register. I did it. It's fairly easy. And right now they only have 229 people that have pre-ordered. So there is a limited amount of time. I'm not exactly sure when that deadline is, so I wouldn't wait. And let's see if we can get 3,000 orders statewide. And I think it'd be kind of cool to have a Rotary license plate, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. I almost forgot that.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Irma.
Yeah, anytime.
Everyone remember, please, we have the annual dinner coming up on June 22nd. There will not be a meeting that day because our dinner will be our meeting. So please get that on your calendars, both of those. The fact that we won't have a meeting at lunch, but we will be doing the annual dinner at Lone Palm on June 22nd. We will be posting ways to pay. I don't know that that's been done yet, but it should be done on the website like we've done everything else. Jack, you want to talk about in person? I'm happy to do
I
it.
would be glad to. So I had a conversation this morning with Mike Stasiak at the church, and it looks like he was actually going to be ready for us on the 22nd, but as you just heard, we won't be meeting that day. So our first meeting back at First United Methodist will be June 29th. So we will need a few volunteers to help serve the lunch. They would prefer it to be people that have had their vaccine. You will probably notice some changes in the room as far as spacing and all that. The church is going through its precautions. But the 29th, if I understood Mike correctly, the price of lunch will now be $15 and the price of a beverage is $4. And that's to cover some additional costs that they're now incurring along with increased prices of food, as I'm sure you all have seen. But anyway, plan on June 29th being back at the church, and it'll be that way moving forward. We will not be going to bi-weekly in person. It'll be every week from now on.
Jack, maybe you said it and I just wasn't paying attention. Are there seating restrictions?
I have not heard an update. Initially, they were going to seat us 4 people to a table. However, that was before the change in the mask regulations and saying that you don't have to wear one indoors and all that. So they may have loosened that up. I probably won't know that for a fact until I get there.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for following up on that and staying with
Yes,
Mike Stasiak on it too. Thanks. We appreciate it. All right. Are there any other announcements from the membership?
So are we meeting at all back at Cleveland Heights, or is the rest Zoom until the church?
Next week should be Cleveland Heights, and then following that one, I think would be Zoom.
Okay.
If I'm doing my math right. Okay. Any other questions or announcements?
Quick question. Do we
Well,
have how do we RSVP for the anniversary dinner?
I believe that Todd is going to try to get a link on the website put up there. We're still trying to figure out what the cost is going to be. And so once he gets all that set up, Jack, I think we're going to be able to pay for it that way.
Gotcha.
Was that clear as mud?
Works for me.
Good, good. Thank you. All right. We are running an efficient program today, so we'll probably get out of here with plenty of time to spare. We're going to step into our program. Our program is being put on by Mr. Scott Bishop. Scott works for, of all places, Lakeland Electric. He is our manager of emerging technology, which is a kind of a new thing for us. He is the first ever recipient of this position that we created, because we are trying to keep up with things that are coming up in the future that we need to make sure that we have a really good handle on. Scott's got a pretty varied background, working all throughout the utility industry. Excuse me. And he used to run our system control center, which is the nerve center of our organization that monitors the generators online, the amps flowing on our wires, and they take care of turning, circuits on and off, especially Jack Loman's when he's having parties and stuff. So Scott is going to give us a discussion today about electricity technology and then kind of future views, focusing a lot on EVs, I think. But it's an interesting thing for us, and we just thought this would be a great program for the membership today. So Scott, if you're ready to go, please take it over.
Thanks, Joel. So I appreciate the opportunity to come speak to the Rotary Club about emerging technology and the road ahead, the future look. And I really wanted to take this, and because I had so many business leaders in the community, kind of change this to more of a not environmental piece, but how there's a cost value that we should be thinking about in our current businesses. So what is emerging technology? So if you were to Google it, you would find AI, robotics, blockchain. Everybody's had seen the crypto craze come over us, and 5G, the new technologies that are changing our communication infrastructure. Well, those things do affect our core business, but they're not the focus of this presentation. I really want to spend some time talking about the direct things, the actual threats and the disruptors that are coming into our space that are making us change and try to look for opportunities in those things as opposed to feeling the disruption. Solar, distributed generation, both our residential folks adding solar to their home and us adding utility scale solar is not only just a technical challenge, but a financial one as well. So we have to manage the technology and how it comes, and then learn to kind of recreate our load profiles and what our system looks like. Hydrogen and SMR are future technologies. They're 2030 and beyond. So if you look at installing solar and wind and batteries everywhere, the variability just isn't there. So we need other technologies in the future to kind of make sure that we can still provide service while still meeting our carbon goals. Fuel cells and battery storage are going to be prevalent. You're going to see more and more of those things coming. More technologies, as they get better and they get more efficient, you'll find that those things will be cost effective for your business. You need to keep your eye on those. More to come. The American Energy Innovation Act, right? We've seen everything Biden's put out, his green plan. There's a ton of dollars, both from a research and development perspective and rebates and incentives for businesses to get into some of this emerging tech space. And lastly, electric vehicles. Those things are going to be coming faster than you realize, and we'll talk about more of that later. Let's talk about solar and distributed generation first. So the graph on the left is the red line is a typical customer load pattern. It's what it looks like in the start of the day, and you see it peaks around 6:30, 7 o'clock at night after you've come home from work and you're cooking dinner, and then it kind of fades off. Well, in aggregate, that actually is what our system looks like too. That's when we need the solar the most. If you look at the orange graph, you'll see that that's solar output generally provided. And you'll see there's a problem there because the solar generation drops off when we need it the most. So solar doesn't solve our needs, especially even with battery. It can be done a little better, but it's not the panacea that everyone claims it is. If you look on the right, the upper right-hand corner, those are solar graphs as operated throughout the day. And you see there's a huge amount of variability, right? The spikiness or the squiggles, if you will. That's not from a storm. Those are bright, puffy clouds on a sunshiny day covering up the solar fields and causing that amount of variability. So what do we do to manage that? So that's some of the hurdles and the challenges that we have going forward. So I could speak on each of these, the hydrogen, the fuel cells, solar. We could get into the cost effectiveness. Is there some capabilities I could use or some use cases? Absolutely. And feel free to contact me if you have any questions about, or you're considering some of those things for your business. We'll talk through them and figure out where the right business case is for you. But I want to talk about electric vehicles primarily, because those are going to be here before you know it. So what is an electric vehicle? Now we're talking about battery electric vehicles primarily, and we'll talk about plug-in hybrids too. But there really is nothing to them. It's a battery with 4 motors mounted by the wheelbase. There's an inverter that changes the DC to AC, and there's a charge port. There really isn't much there. There's no transmission. There's no fluids to deal with. Well, maybe wiper fluid, but there's no fluids in it. It's really a very simple machine, very effective, and can be used in the right case. I'll explain some of that as we go. Here's Deloitte, their guesstimation on and what they're seeing from EV growth. And if you look in 2020, you see that car sales were down a lot, right? That was pandemic hit us all. But they're projecting, they've got 2021 numbers started, and they're projecting about a 30% market penetration by 2030. Now that does include battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid vehicles. So you will see more of them on the road. I'll occasionally spot a Tesla here and there, but there's going to be more coming that way. So what is a plug-in hybrid and what's a battery electric? So a plug-in hybrid vehicle actually does plug in and take a charge. Typically, it's a smaller battery on the vehicle, and it goes anywhere from 10 to 40 miles. Once the battery's uncharged, the ICE motor kicks in, and it allows the rest of the drive. So like if you had a 10-mile commute to work, you could drive the entire commute on electric, and then if you were to go somewhere, the battery would kick in. You're going to see a ton of those all over the place. Now, battery electric vehicles have recently really just started to come out heavily. You know, the Tesla's been around a while, but the Ford Mach-E and the new Lightning release, the E-Transit, there's a lot more coming, and you need to be aware of them. So I got this electric vehicle now. How do I charge it? What is this whole charging thing? What is that at all? There's 3 types of charging. There's level 1, which is absolutely just an AC plug at your house. It has about the same energy profile as a toaster. There's the level 2 charger, which is like a hot water heater or a dryer, a large appliance in your home. Any electrician that you know can install a 2-pole breaker in your box at your house, and you can plug in your vehicle. So those are typically 10 to 20 miles an hour, and so you can charge overnight and you get an additional couple hundred. You no longer have the stop to go to the gas station. You're charging, and 80% of it is done at the home or at the office. So you've taken away that trip to the gas station that you take, and you're doing it at home or at work. DC fast chargers are it's an infrastructure. They're $100,000 a piece. You'll find those in rest stops and along highways. Those are the big lifts for maybe an evacuation route and need some DC fast chargers along the way, or you're traveling on the interstate and you need to pull over and charge real fast. That's the heavy lift stuff that most people won't buy at the home. You'll probably put in a level 2 charger, your plug will come with the vehicle, and you're good to go. So what is a hot water heater and electric vehicle? Let's say they're in comparison. If you look at both kilowatts and kilowatt hours, they're real similar. So if you were to add an additional hot water heater at your home, that's what it costs you a year to charge your electric vehicle. You can use them to avoid, just like your water heater, you can put a timer on it and avoid any demand charges or any peak problems that you're having. And typically a full battery, they say, is a full day supply. But in reality, if you're driving, and most vehicles are around 300 miles, in reality, if you're driving less than 300 miles in a week, you only have to charge your vehicle once a week. And that's about probably the amount of time that you're going to the gas station. But of course, you no longer have that stop. So let's look at the money. Okay, that's probably what we're all interested in. So yes, pound for pound and vehicle for vehicle, the electric vehicle is more expensive than the similar sedan or truck in the ICE engine. So yes, you have the additional charge facility and the amount of money you lay out front. Ongoing O&M is always every vehicle, but it's a lot less than an ICE motor. You have a standard cost of the vehicle, and of course you'll probably have to finance it. Now, there's this societal benefits dollars and reduced emissions. Okay, ignore that. Pretend that we're not worried about those things. They really don't capture on a spreadsheet anyway, so they're just there as a side benefit. Let's remove those $100. Reduced cost of ownership is there. Now, why is that? Your equivalent miles per gallon is cheaper than your gas miles per gallon. For what your electric provider sends you at a per kilowatt basis, you can get the equivalent miles per gallon. Right now, it's what we're charging you is around $1.50 a gallon, an equivalent of gas. Now, the last time we saw $1.50 a gallon, it was a while ago, and I don't think we'll see it again. But that's about what we're charging you for that vehicle. And you can see there's a net benefit. Now, that net benefit really only kicks in if you're driving more than 13,000 miles a year. That's the number. So because your reduced cost of ownership is in your miles traveled, In order for you to return on your asset, you have to have the 13,000 miles a year. So if you have a commuter vehicle that has a 50 mile either way, or your fleet has a vehicle that rides around less than 100 miles a day, it leaves the office and returns to the office. And by the end of the day, it's a no-brainer, right? Because you're going to get the mileage you need, you're going to get the cost reduction you need, and at the end of the day, there is a net present value. That's with the current market now. So what's going on is as those prices are being lowered and more manufacturers are kicking over to EV, you're paying for some of that initial cost up front. But the second these economies of scale kick in, you're going to get better and better cost benefit analysis. It's there now. That's what I'm telling you. At 13,000 miles, it's really going to be there here in the next couple of years, and you're going to start seeing folks head that direction. Amazon's going to go. The post office has already said they're heading that way. More and more businesses should be thinking about an e-transit or an F-150 if you got fleet vehicles, and maybe some of your sedans in your businesses to start making the transition. The dollars are there now. So what happens if I'm providing service to my customer, or I'm somewhere and I've reached my 250 miles or 300 miles for the day and I'm nowhere near home? This is Lakeland's currently installed public chargers available for your use. The orange ones are the DC fast chargers. You can charge really quick. This is just plugshare.com. You open up the app, you figure out where you're at, and it looks more prevalent in Orlando and Tampa as well. This isn't just, these are the ones in Lakeland. They're everywhere. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're more there than you thought they were. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to continue to add chargers, and that's going to happen. And they're going to get more and more prevalent. But you won't be stuck on the side of the road somewhere because we're already making sure that's not going to happen. Lastly, don't listen to me. Go to goelectricdrive.org. Do your own research. There are tons of incentives out there. You can find an equipment options, what works best for you, both in miles. It's a little early adopter now, but it's going to real quick. The business case is there now. It's going to real quick convert over where it's going to make sense on the spreadsheet, and we need to be paying attention to it now. So that's all I really have. Any questions?
Scott, we do have one question in the chat box, and the question is, are you chasing grant funding for chargers?
Absolutely. I'm currently have a bid in from the Department of Environmental Protection as part of the Volkswagen mitigation dollars to install fast chargers on the I-498 intersection near the Travelodge and IHOP. So I'm going to be putting in 4, if getting the grant, I'll have 4 50 kW fast chargers installed at that location. Who did Joel put that in?
I'm not going to say. What is the cost to charge at public charging stations?
So it depends. So Tesla does it one way. They actually charge you a monthly fee of like $70, and you, as a Tesla subscriber, pay that monthly fee. The public chargers vary in price. Now, for us, we're going to charge you the kilowatts, same as charging at your house. But you got to watch whoever's put the charger in. They could have an additional fee added to the thing to kind of recover their cost of capital. So to say what the number is, it's the same price you pay at home plus maybe an adder to cover that energy that they've added onto it. So you have to watch them, but it's in the cents. It's in the cents of kilowatts.
Does Lakeland Electric currently have the capacity to handle the additional demand that might come from electric vehicles?
Fantastic question. Yes, and maybe not. So depends on the aggregate penetration. So if your neighbor pulls up in a new Tesla and there's 20 people in that cul-de-sac and everybody decides to go grab one at the same time, we're going to have to talk, because I have to upgrade transformers and maybe some potential lines and some of those things. So in aggregate, I'm in trouble. If it is done slowly and effectively and not at a crazy level, then we're paying attention to where those things are going and as they go. The question is, if the third or fourth neighbor is the guy that overloads the transformer, and we got to figure out how to share some of those costs. So yes, we're ready, and yes, we're paying attention to them. If you go to our e-track it system for the city and you do an electrical permit, we have level 1, 2, and 3 chargers being tracked, and we see those things and we know where they're going. But it's really just a matter of how fast and how in aggregate they actually hit one location. That's when we got to start having those conversations.
Joel, was your question about solar a joke or for real?
Yeah, he can answer that. You can leave out the GUR part.
Are you adding any more solar?
Oh, okay. So yeah, what we're doing, we've recently selected a vendor for a 20 megawatt solar field. It's over near our technical training center near McIntosh. Surrounds the Matheson Trigas location. It's a utility level solar that we're getting put in probably in the 2023 timeframe. We got to do some contract negotiations and those kind of things. But we're going to be looking for a 25-year plus purchase power agreement. We're able to find solar now at the utility level that's cheaper than we can build generation for. Now, that's not a win-win like it sounds, because you only get about a 29% capacity factor from solar, right? In other words, 29% of the time, solar's there. The other time, it's not. So we still got to continue to put generation in. We still have to do the reliable thing. But if we can buy solar at a cheaper price than we can put generation in, then we need to be considering it in the right amounts, in the right locations, when land is becoming at a premium as is, because they're very land intensive. So it's about finding the right places and the right business case for them.
Questions are coming in fast and furious now, but first of all, what do we have to do to get that new solar field named after Joel Ivy?
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that.
Okay, serious question. What is the most cost-efficient way to produce power? Wind, solar, or the current way that Lakeland Electric produces?
The most cost-effective?
Yes, most cost-effective.
Well, currently right now, utility scale solar is cheaper than the rest of them. Residential solar still doesn't have a rate case unless coupled with battery, and it's still close on whether or not you recover your capital. It's close, but they're going to, real quick, those battery technologies come down and solar comes down. It may be something to look at the home. It's not there yet business case wise. The cheapest way to produce power right now is through utility level solar. Again, no reliability there in the middle of the night. So it's the cheapest as is now. It doesn't meet the needs of all of our customers because you expect the air to be on in the middle of the night as well. So batteries coupled with it take it over that original. It's the cheapest thing to do now. So right now, generation on the ground, burning fuel is still our most reliable, as economic solution that we can do.
Thank you. All right, we're back to the electric vehicle question, and this is with the increase in demand for electricity by electric vehicle owners. How great really is the overall net reduction in fossil fuel emissions?
So I just saw a survey last week. Yes, there is more carbon footprint produced in an electric vehicle than there is an ICE one. Okay, it is. All the minerals and the materials. It's a little more carbon heavy. At about year 2.5, at 10 to 12,000 miles a year, you have made an environmental decision. 2.5 is the break-even point, and every year past then that you drive your electric vehicle, you have helped the earth. Now, I'm not telling you to save the dolphins or anything like that, but you had made an environmental impact after year 2.5. You have reduced the carbon offset going into the atmosphere.
Okay, this question is, you talked today to us about solar production and electric vehicles. Sounds like these are a couple of Lakeland Electric's priority areas. Are there any other emerging technology areas that are a priority? What else is coming up?
So we are going to be looking at hydrogen and SMR in the future, right? So we got to start studying those things now. Plants they're not a quick turnaround, right? You have to start paying attention to 10-year technologies now. So we are looking at hydrogen and SMR. We are going to look at additional batteries and battery storage capabilities. We're doing demand side management ideation right now and trying to get a strategy around that and what it looks like. We're working on additional DOE and DEP funding. We're trying to find other opportunities. I'm meeting with some of the private companies next week to talk about some other private partnerships and working with universities to try to look for research there too. Solar path forward, and residential aggregate is going to be difficult for us as well. And I'm missing one. I don't know. That's it.
All right, thank you. So how are solar panels disposed of after they are out of service?
That's a great question too. So there are reclaim recycling companies popping up now that people are realizing that their 15 or 20 year ago investment has minerals, materials, silica and silicone. You can't just throw them in a dump. That's awful. There are companies coming out now that are actually taking and pulling out and repurposing those materials, and of course with a cost, associated with them. That's something that we're all going to have to kind of get our heads around and get more efficient at going forward as well. How do we recycle these things effectively without affecting the environment?
I'm glad you think we ask good questions. We're a pretty bright group.
Yeah, they're sharp.
Okay. Are small-scale nuclear plants in the future for Florida?
I hope so. I love nuclear. That's just a Scott comment, though. There's some really cool technologies coming out of Idaho. NuScale's got some neat stuff. They're tractor trailer size, 20 megawatts, dispatchable. They're not going to break down. Everything that the sales guys are telling us they're going to do is yet to be seen. If the promise is anywhere near what they're selling me, I think that's something we need to keep on the radar and pay attention to. I like the promise of a safe, small nuclear unit that I can use in my profile that doesn't cause any problem to the environment or the people around it. I really like that idea. It's not real yet, but the entire world is working on it. I was on a seminar last week with the Atomic Energy Agency and Japan and Spain and Korea, and the entire world is coming up with different materials and trying to solve that problem and work on just that. It's really promising. I'm excited about it.
That is all I see in the chat box, President Joel.
Scott, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Scott and I get to work together quite a bit, and he is a pleasure to work with. And what you hear is the energy and passion that he brings to these things. And that's not just because he's given a presentation. That's pretty much how he is all the time. So I've got a book for you in memory of this presentation that you did, and I will get it to you tomorrow, Scott. So thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the opportunity, everybody.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I want to thank our guests and visiting Rotarians, Andrew, Scott, and Greg. Thank you all so much for coming back and joining us again. Our weekly quote, electricity is really just organized lightning. That is George Carlin. So our next week's meeting will be Zoom hybrid from the Heights. Look forward to seeing a bunch of people at the Heights next week or online. So absent any protests to the contrary, we're going to give you some time back and call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.